But still to come is going to be Memory of Gabe against Noble, and the last set to wrap things up, Luminosity against a Monkey Madness here. I'm looking at the Memory of Gabe versus Noble set here, and it's going to be an interesting one. But first, let's recap about that first set, Eager versus Flashpoint here. And when I look at that set, I'm looking at Sanford Soccer playing the Susanoo.
I mean, he definitely played very well. Taco said that was his obvious best performance in the league. It absolutely was. And Zapman, I mean, he said he's taking a break, got to say goodbye in the right way. The first game, Zapman went 8-0-5. I mean, to put it, he was 6-0-5 before they walked into the Titan room and got 2 extra kills. That's still a really good slash line. Homie came through and just played classic Zapman style. Next game, still positive KDA, 2-1-6 or so, just looking very clean. And then, like you said, Sanford Soccer stepping up, playing the Susanoo, and making it work.
It just didn't seem that Eager allowed any breathing room from Flashpoint. Every time that Flashpoint would go for an objective, whether it was the 17-minute Goal Fury, they would lose some members afterwards, and also the 23-minute Desperation Fire Giant that they tried to do against Eager. It was something that they needed to try to do in order to stay relevant in the game, but unfortunately Eager punishing them so heavily, capitalizing that in the first game of the set. In the second one, it was a different story completely, because I feel like it was just Walrus getting camped every single time.
There was a hi-rez versus pros game that we watched a long time ago, where we had my good friend DM Brandon, and he was playing Aphrodite, and the pros were playing It Doesn't Matter, because they went out of their way to stop playing Smite and camp Brandon as he came out of base. They killed him by a Phoenix. Listen, at some point, the guys on Eager stopped trying to win the game and started trying to make Walrus mad. And I mean, looking at Flashpoint, I broke it down earlier saying the roster didn't really have much to write home about. Walrus is the shining star. You know what? There's a strategy in keeping the one guy down. So I think Eager was having a little bit of fun with it, totally, in all honesty, but keeping Walrus down helped Eager win the game.
It's not just necessarily keeping him down, it was the guy that he was playing as well. It escalates very highly in that mid to late game. Amaterasu with so much mobility, so much extra physical power from her aura. You don't really want to deal with that, so by shutting down that soul lane, helped them out in that mid to late game. And they just had such a comfortable lead that whole entire second game. Off of their Ra and Terra sustain, they wouldn't give anything back to Flashpoint. By the 16-minute mark, they had a 13,000 goal lead, winning the game in about 21 minutes flat.
Yeah, you know, sometimes there's not much to be said. I think at this point, you know, Eager was just clearly the top card. Flashpoint couldn't dance. There was one player that Eager felt was a threat. They took him out of the game, and that was that.
Unfortunate for Flashpoint, but Eager's going to move on. But now heading into set number 3 of the day, we're actually going to talk about Luminosity, though, first, against a Monkey Madness. That's going to be the last set of the day, and these two teams are very close in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, these two are your more talented teams in North America, the most talented teams, if you ask me. Luminosity has the legacy lane of Jeff Hinla and Barracuda, affectionately called by some fans as the sex tank. And then, of course, on the other side, you've got Monkey Madness, who Snoopy and Eonic are just as legendary. I mean, if you can go all the way back to 2013, 2014, where you're looking at Cog Red, and these guys are laning together, and they go off and they do separate things, and Snoopy plays mid, and Eonic, but they all come back, and it comes full circle. Eminem, or Monkey Madness, excuse me, finding the wins here. This matchup, please don't ask me for predictions.
It's a very legendary dual lane, whether or not you're looking at either of them, but looking at the solo lane specifically here for the 4th set of the day, KikiSoCheeky. On the other side of things, we have to talk about him specifically. He's one of these players that go on and off in that solo lane, I feel like.
Kiki?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Shifting gears a little bit. Kiki is definitely an eclectic player. One, he has an interesting god pool. These days, he's resorting back to the Vamana. A lot of his games have been Vamana-centric. Just looking to provide that up front and that up close and personal solo lane love that we like to see, the zoning that comes out of Kiki. Going back a long time, he is traditionally a solo laner, and actually, I'm going to switch roles with you real quick. I want your take on how much Kiki's old style, where he was a dominant solo laner, as a solo laner yourself, how does that compare to him now?
He's definitely made a lot of interesting transitions, but he's going to be in actually the third set of the day, Memory of Gabe against Noble. But I wanted to actually talk about Scary D. We'll revisit Kiki here in a little bit, but I want to talk about Scary D coming out of Luminosity, because he's another player that he's been able to make this kind of transition here. We saw him perform in Season 3, where Scary D was being able to kind of get taken advantage of in some of these group LAN phases, but he's been making some very key highlight plays, even managing to find a lot of solo kills when he's playing these aggressive early game gods.
Scary D is still learning for me. He's still ramping up. We saw a real big moment for him. There was a specific moment in time at Super Regionals where Scary D goes ahead, he pushes forward, and he wins his lane, and he gets a kill. It's on Hercules, if memory serves. And after that moment, he had the confidence in himself, but perhaps more importantly, he had the confidence of his team, Anatoly. And then what we saw from there was his team finally had somebody that they could rely on to play that solo lane, which is your anchor. That's your anchor for the team. You need them to be providing a reliable, consistent source of tankiness, and Scary D found that in Super Regionals. Now, Worlds, he lost it. And coming in the spring and the summer split, he's working his way back up there.
His opponent for today will be Final K in that solo lane, making the transition from the Challenger circuit scene into the SPL. And so far, I gotta say, he's been doing a pretty great job pairing up with Anaster in that mid lane, Homie Efe in jungle. Just everything seems to be clicking for the solo laner.
I have sang the praises of Final K over and over again, to the point where I almost feel like maybe I'm doing him a disservice, because when he does have that bad game or that bad week, people are going to ask what happened. But at the end of the day, this guy's a rookie, and last year we had all of these fresh faces come out and they all did well. This year, this has been a troublesome class of rookies, I'd say. Our newer players have not flourished. He is a light in the darkness for the newer players, and he looks fantastic. In-game, he's doing what he has to. Out of game, he's making the content. I love what Final K has been bringing.
So you said you don't want to make a prediction for this set, so I'll go ahead and do it for you. I'm actually going to predict that Luminosity will take this set 2-0. Okay. They've needed to get a little bit of spark under them to really establish themselves this split. Always being able to be on the top of the bar in the previous ones, if there's ever time for them to shine, now would be it against Monkey Madness. So, heading into the earlier set now, KikiSoCheeky against Aquarius in that matchup, Memory of Gabe against Noble. Talk about Kiki for me.
That's really fun. I mean, I touched on Kiki before, very eclectic god pool, long-time student of the game. Most important thing I want to touch on, though, revitalization. This guy has been around for a long time, and look, I don't want to dive into the guy's head, but watching him perform and getting knocked down in the Challenger League kind of sucks. I'm going to be frank about it. But then he made the run through the gauntlet with Oxygen Supremacy, fell a little bit short. And with that run that OS had in the gauntlet, I see a different Kiki. I see a Kiki that is just, he's more here, he's more present, and it's not a tangible stat. I can't give you something like that, totally. But watching the games that Kiki has been playing, he's more engaged, that helps him.
That 7-2 run that you were talking about, that Oxygen Supremacy went through, helped out every single member, not just Kiki, but also his god pool still expanding all the time, playing gods like the Morrigan every single chance that he can get. He's not really afraid to go outside that Warrior Guardian composition to kind of surprise his opponents.
What I do like is that he is playing those Warrior Guardian characters, though. Kiki for a long time was sort of like old Eager, where, all right, maybe you're pushing the boundaries a little bit too much. There's something to be said about creativity, but how creative is too creative? Kiki's gonna play things like Naja, like Arachne, like Hell, and those are kind of weird. But at the end of the day, you need your weird stuff. But you break the rules after you learn them. And so I like seeing Kiki come back and playing the Vamana, playing the Xingqian, because when it fits, he will play Arachne.
Well, his opponent today is going to be Aquarius coming out of that opposition. And I think that he's going to have some trouble here trying to deal against Kiki, because you never really know what to expect out of Memory of Gabe solo laner. But from Aquarius, he's been making some necessary steps to prove himself as well.
I love what Aquarius has been bringing as well, and I don't think I think Aquarius's background actually gives him a lot of points for working against a player like Kiki. So Aquarius obviously is an established Conquest player in his own right, but on his off time, he is a Grandmaster Joust player once upon a time. And playing Joust, you have many different compositions to deal with, many different god choices to deal with, and so the fact that Kiki has a bag of tricks, I don't think is going to throw him a curveball.
I think making this switch into the Noble solo lane, though, replacing out Uzi before, as well as Skeeledon replacing out Chapo here, should be an interesting little dynamic. You're having those two Oxygen Supremacy members. So I got to ask you, though, your predictions for this. You didn't give me any of the last one.
That's fair.
You got to give me one for this one.
That's fair. This one is closer than it seems. I think at home it's easy to say that Noble loses this, especially with the roster changes. But I think the roster changes are kind of positive. With that said, I do think Noble winds up losing this. I think they do not find a win.
I think this might actually end up to be a split personally. It's all going to be dependent on how well Noble adjusts to that jungle mid synergy. But enough of us. Let's go ahead and throw it to the casters for this set.
Thanks, Toli and Tom alongside him. Aggro will be joining me for this one. Interesting, the desk is split there. They think it could be a split.
Yeah, I mean, Toli thinks a split. Tom thinks it's going to be the 2-0 forward memory of Gabe. I mean, this really could go either way because Noble itself, they just have a lot of volatile players that can have these incredible games like MLC Stealth and Skeeledon both have the potential to absolutely carry. And they also have the potential to be kind of invisible at times, so you never know exactly which type of Noble you're going to get.
Well, let's go into pick some bands and see how this one breaks down between Noble and Memory of Gabe. We're expecting a couple of bands to start things off. I believe Memory of Gabe were the first team that didn't ban Ganesha over in North America. They left him open.
Sure.
And didn't get punished for it.
No, Ganesh has been picked quite a bit whenever he's not banned, but hasn't seen a ton of success quite yet at the competitive level, so we'll have to see if Gabe want to leave it open this time around. I believe Wobbn did play it for Noble and didn't have a lot of success, so wouldn't be surprised if Gabe leave it open.
Circuit, Capri, Osiris, Bellona. Fafnir is available for Noble Esports. Is that the go-to here?
Could be Fafnir. I think that's the right call. I mean, Noble does have some struggles at times with their objective control, but it's going to be the Nemesis here for Skeeledon, most likely. Gabe does have the option now of Fafnir plus basically whatever they want. Yeah, Raven. It's going to be Thoth, though, for Hurriwind in the mid lane, partially because Hurriwind likes this god a lot, but also to keep it away from stealth.
I guess the fact is as well, like, taking the Nemesis early makes Memory Gabe go, okay, maybe we don't go for a super tanky lineup, because Nemesis is so good at shredding through those protections and making them squishy.
Very true, and Fafnir does get a lot of protections, and you can take a lot of those away very quickly, but Fafnir also very mobile, can get away from Nemesis, can cancel out that shield pretty easily with the hammer stun. But curious decision to leave Fafnir open for Eonic.
But they do get the Terra anyway. That was available, and taking it now before the counterbound phase is pretty wise.
I like this Terra selection here for Wobbn. I mean, Ganesh was open, but as we mentioned, Noble played it, but didn't have a lot of success with it. Terra brings great lockdown up against characters like Fafnir and even the Camazotz.
And the Camazotz, we've seen a little bit more play out of this now. A couple of buffs to Camazotz in terms of the pools and the fact you can still drink at them in combat at full speed. But not only that, with the Sunder meta and the power spikes and the fact of the amount of less sustain in these compositions now, his poke is a lot more prevalent.
His poke is incredible. I mean, it's really, really strong. And as you mentioned, with less healing being in the meta right now, that makes that poke even better. Yes, Terra does have a little bit of healing, but it's pretty non-existent right now. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot there. It's really off the Terra's blessing that you're getting the big heal and not that monolith.
Well, Rama lights in for Memory of Gabe to secure their Hunter position alongside Fafnir. We know what the dual lane is. We know probably where the junglers are going to be with that Camazotz locked in, even though it can flex a solo. Noble have 2 more picks left, Vulcan, and where are we expecting solo here? Something tanky?
Yeah, it could be Hercules was banned away, and I like that. Could be Erlong Shen here. Wouldn't mind seeing that. Nike also available, 2 characters that benefit off the cleave auto attacks that are so popular in that solo lane right now. Could be something with just a little bit more CC. Wukong as well. I love this pick here. Just bringing a little bit more control. You've got plenty already on Noble, and you could never get too much CC in my mind, as long as you've got enough damage to follow it up. And with Vulcan, Nemesis, and Hu Yi, you don't have to worry about that damage at all.
I can agree with this on Wukong. I would have liked to see Nike, just because that would help the whole squad, really. The mobility is a big key for this team. You know, Nemesis, Terra's going to do the same thing. Vulcan's passive. They all want the extra mobility, which will help them out. But Nike's going to go to Memory of Gabe Gabe instead, which is kind of where, once you see Bellona, Hercules, Osiris Band, they're the next go-tos.
Yeah, Wukong right there with Nike, and I think Nike is one of those gods that's pretty undervalued right now. She seems to just show up every once in a while, but I think she really does bring a lot to a team and has just kind of fallen out of favor for the time being, but wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a little bit more moving forward.
As long as there's no executes involved, Nike is very strong for being able to bait a lot of the time, set up multiple people trying to kill her, because as a tank, absorb a lot of damage, and when they group up to try and really pick you off at the end, hit your ultimate, slow them all down, and then the team could turn it around with potentially a Vulcan ult, but enough about Vulcan ults because they're on opposite teams.
Exactly. And anyways, I mean, Nike is just one of those characters that, as you mentioned, doesn't have to worry about executes right now because Wukong, not really in the meta. Thanatos even is kind of falling out of the meta.
Again.
So
I mean, he was flavor for a while, right?
He was. Yeah, Thanatos was definitely heavily favored by a lot of teams early on, but with the game kind of slowing down a little bit now, the early game a little bit less important, and many people might not agree with that statement, but when you're getting characters like Thoth, Vulcan, and Nemesis being picked very early on, that's enough of a sign that early game is not that important because these characters don't do well at that stage.
Well, expectations at the start here is going to be most of a farm-off because the two styles of junglers we have here today, and the actual characters they've pretty much picked here, the gods involved, are actually a slower mid-game sort of orientated composition. Although we'll see some aggression early on. Skeeledon, minions, 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 winions will get first blood. Cynosure gets credit for the kill, though. That was close.
That was very close. And again, that just comes back to the fact that Vulcan and Nemesis, not great at clearing the wave early on. They leave 3 archers, and those 3 archers make a world of difference. Skeeledon just runs down into the jungle. He lives.
I was going to say, Aggro, I think the biggest thing there was I was expecting to be quite a slow early game with both these junglers, as I was saying, mid-game focus, but giving Camazotz an early kill, someone like Cynosure on that, they will be able to try and start to apply pressure early on.
Absolutely. Gabe is one of those teams that, I mean, you can say this about every team, right? If they get an early lead, they look so much different. They look like a completely different squad, but Cynosure in particular, whenever he gets an early lead, just seems to get that confidence and really start to make a really big impact around the map.
A little bit surprised by memory of Gabe there. Don't go for the blue buff. Instead, they went for the elementals. Aquarius was left alone there. I guess they were worried about a potential rotation or pressure in the mid lane a little bit. I think they could have taken that blue, which helps out Cynosure, you know, obviously with the passive he has to his name.
It does get that passive stack off of the fire elementals, though. The big one does apply that passive stack, so it doesn't really matter too much exactly. So Aquarius now going to head into the enemy jungle, realize that maybe that's not the best spot for him, and head back.
This tune is good.
I'm jamming to this.
We can just listen to the music that's going on in the background right now. It's rock on. Noble versus Memory of Gabe.
Wubbn and Wowy in the
Why'd it go away? I wasn't trying to draw attention to it to make it stop. Put it back on, please. We were enjoying that. No? Okay then, fine. Worth a try. Remember, you gave up 1 kill right now. Snoopy forced to beads early on there, worried about getting hit by that ricochet. It didn't connect because you can see the mark of the crow still on his head.
Wubbn and Wowy definitely very aggressive in this duo lane at times, especially with a composition like this. Hui Terra can all of a sudden put you in a really bad spot, not only between the CC that each of them have, but just putting up those walls just like that, and then Wowy can throw that triple bounce in there. We've seen some really hot plays between these sort of compositions.
And Wowy, like, he loves the aggressive gods. We've seen it multiple times before. He's quite happy to farm up most of the time. I do like his balance of Wowy overall in terms of his playstyle. He seems to know when to get aggressive and when to play passive in the lane. Sometimes he can overdo it with the aggression, a little bit Zapman-esque there. Sometimes he can overdo it with the passiveness, sort of Barracuda there, I guess, in a way. But they're not 2 names you're going to be upset about hearing you getting yourself referred to.
Wowy is one of those guys that is definitely rising up the ranks of North American hunters. When you're talking about the best hunters in NA, Wowy's name is starting to creep up there in a lot of people's mouths, I think. But I like this adjustment from Noble because in the beginning of season 4 here, they would just leave Wowy alone all the time in that lane. Wubbn would always be in mid, and then there would just be a 2v1, and Wowy would often fall pretty far behind through no fault of his own. I like this adjustment, putting Wubbn with Wowy, getting him even in that laning phase, making sure Snoopy doesn't get too much of a lead, and then allow Wowy to be an impact earlier on than he has been previously.
Speaking of Snoopy as well, playing his classic Rama, one of the most famous gods he's known for in the Hunter role, outside of Vulcan, I'd say. Going for the Devouring's Gauntlets build once again, something Zapman did earlier on. We've seen a little bit more out of this, mainly from Ramas alone. How's Snoopy been, though? He's been very quiet in my eyes in this role since coming back to it.
I was about to say that exact same thing. He's been there. He's had some nice plays. He's had some games where he was kind of invisible. We haven't seen that same level of dominance that he once had during Season 1 and Season 2. in that hunter role. And I think it could just be a matter of time until we see him resurge to that, or, you know, it could be that we'll never see him hit that level again. That was a time where, I mean, he was without a doubt one of the best players in the world. I mean, Rom was getting banned away first against him, and only him, because of how well he played on that god.
But some of that did come down to Snoopy switching roles multiple times, I guess, and the fact that he admitted himself he wasn't really enjoying too much the fact of playing the hunter role, so he did want to rather go mid or support or solo. Anything but jungle, basically. Skeeledon's really in trouble here, and he will fall down. Aquarius might be able to turn it around, but Kiki's slow from the ultimate will buy him enough time to get away.
Hurriwind and Eonic are both here as well. That's a clean pick on his Skeeledon there. Aquarius actually gets his own blue. Nice secure with that magic cudgel, but doesn't save Skeeledon's life earlier on, who also had to use his purification beads and fell anyways.
And you saw what Noble were trying to do there, just secure their own buffs. If not, Skeeledon was poking his head back in because he'd managed to do it at the speed buff just about in time before Memory of Gabe turned up. But then on the blue buff, he just made a little bit of a mistake and it cost him more. Aquarius, a little bit overextended here. He'll be okay for now, though. He's checking if the blue buff had spawned, or if they were doing it. Sadly not, they were doing the elementals.
And Cynosure has got a big lead over Skeeledon right now, about 800 gold in the jungle early on. And Nemesis is one of those gods that can handle an early deficit and be okay with it, but man, is it difficult whenever you've got a Camazotz who's got a big item lead on you. That poke becomes so significant, and gods that don't have a lot of sustain, like Nemesis, like Vulcan, can start to fall victim to that pretty easily.
And that's a big difference in this game so far, is the fact that Cynosure has picked up both those kills onto the Nemesis. So the two junglers making an impact in different ways so far. Noble are going to have to wait this out even longer now for Skeeledon to catch up. Cynosure will be trying to hit the gas pedal a little bit, I guess, with the gank opportunities now, knowing he's got this lead.
And Gabe has a great mid to late game composition. You could say the same for Noble, though. I mean, Noble's late game is phenomenal between the Terra, the Hu-Yi. Vulcan damage in the late game is comparable to Scylla in my mind. I mean, we're talking that level of damage out of your mid lane, and usually pretty safe while doing it. So you've got plenty to wait for on Noble. The problem is that Gabe's going to get there at the same time, if not a little bit faster, and then have just as much danger available to them.
And you can see the pressure on mid lane onto Cynosure there, who leaps out of the root, but still going to get hit by Skeeledon. Skeeledon gets it turned around on thanks to a great hammer out of Eonic. Cynosure looking to sustain a little bit, put some poke pressure on. Skeely's still in trouble thanks to the CC combo from Eonic. Stealth is a couple of hits from death, but he'll get away from the auto attack damage coming out from the dragon.
And Wobbin trying to make it happen. 1v3. Eonic gets pretty low, but not low enough to fall. Strong play there out of Hurriwind. Loved his positioning. Look how much damage he took on that engagement. 0. That was beautiful positioning from him, using that long-range damage coming out of Thoth, and confirmed quite a bit of it off of the stun from Eonic. That final judgment almost got him 2 kills.
So, still no kills extra on the board right now, but you can see the proxy farming started over in the right-hand side. Aquarius is currently proxy farming, but we just saw Kiki doing it a moment ago before he returned to base. I think this is going to be something we expect quite often between these two, because they both recognize it's very difficult to kill the other.
Exactly. 2 very safe solo laners in Sun Wukong and Nike. Nike, of course, because of the shield. Sun Wukong because of the mobility of 72 transformations and his ultimate as well. Looks like Aquarius gets the better end there in terms of poke and that big fire elemental.
But she'll sustain back up once she gets to the wave. With that Death's Toll on the cleave effect, Kiki will be fine for the time being.
Plus, he's starting to level up that second ability, Plan of Action. As you rank that up, not only do you get extra ability damage on everything that you use that 2 with, but extra HP 5 as well. So in the early game, Nike really does rely on that cleave to sustain herself up. In the mid game, once that 2 starts to get leveled, then you're going to have that HP 5 and you have a little bit less to worry about.
And as we're shooting with Kiki, you see the first Laurel coming online for the side of Noble. Now that's down to the minions more often than not being killed. It normally takes around this time for that first Laurel to be activated.
Need 10 kills to get the second portion, and then having 2 members hit level 20 on your team, so a little bit of ways away from that.
To be fair, he's further away for 10 kills now than hitting members to level 20. I mean,
that's true.
2 of the members are even halfway there so far.
That's true. It doesn't matter what order you do them in. You just got to get them done either way.
Mid lane, bit of pressure coming out once again from Wubbn. The ultimate off the mark there from MLC Stealth. But still there's trouble for Hurriwind, who just cannot escape the situation he was put in. Ultimate was available. Beads were used there, I believe. Or was that an Aegis? I believe it's Aegis.
Aegis there out of the mid lane. Doesn't matter either way. Skeeledon just, as soon as that knew that dash was down from Hurriwind, that's an easy Nemesis ult and very difficult for Hurriwind to get away.
Definitely an important kill there, because it's going to relieve a little bit of pressure on to Noble's mid lane. And now with their Skeeledon, might be able to catch up by stripping away the blue buff there. Now level 9 equal with that of Cynosure, who was forced to stay in lane due to Aquarius is poking him down.
Still down about 600 gold, but a little bit better than the 800 he was down earlier on. Skeeledon starting to get back into this one, and that's the real difference maker for me on Noble is going to be this jungler. I mean, very similar to their spring split jungler El Chapo, who is El Chapo, yeah.
Is he a new guy?
Yeah, he's new, but no, yeah, he's new.
Okay.
Anyways,
carry on. What are you saying?
He's new, but he definitely is very momentum based. Needs to get that, needs to get that early momentum, and then he can start to win the game for you.
Bit of a fight on the right hand side. Here you see the Terra ult was put very early by Wobbn in this engagement. A little bit worried about positioning. This is more for escape than anything else. Use of the ultimate. Aquarius versus Kiki though. Aquarius just using the fact that he had that Terra ultimate to get a bit of poke damage on Kiki at the same time. And on the left hand side, Wowy pressured Snoopy with that ultimate too. Surprisingly enough, you don't really look at the big picture of the ultimate that comes out from Terra, but sometimes you can see it just in the health bars of what other lanes are doing with the ultimate while it's being used.
Making best use of the fact that you're not using any mana with any of your abilities, and you also have CDR with that, so plenty to go for in terms of poke without really worrying about using your abilities too much. Good play there out of Noble, basically across the board, but loved what MLC Stealth did in that little mid lane skirmish. Right after Wubbn popped that ultimate, it was clear that Noble was trying to disengage. Hurriwind was charging that final judgment around the wall, but Stealth just knocks him up with the meatball, puts him a little bit of damage into him with the backfire as well. Forces Hurriwind to get off of that engagement and worry about what's right in front of him.
And this is one of those games where he's technically down to Eonic to find a stun to set up some damage in the mid lane for memory of Gabe, and Noble are waiting for Wubbn to find the crushing walls or the root to set up for some damage for them. That's all this game's going to come down to, because the Hunters are being left alone, the Solos are being left alone, the 3v3 in the mid lane is the real focus. Although Wowy on a hoagie at this stage of the game is definitely an issue that Snoopy's got to be careful of, even though he does have those Devourer's gauntlets.
4-man grouping from Noble in the mid lane, but Kiki with the great recognition that he's going to get a chance to try and steal this away, but Aquarius gets there in time.
Kiki's just like, thanks a lot, brother. I knew you were going to do that anyway. Don't worry about it. I'll take the free farm. Appreciate it. And now we're going to pressure you a little bit more. Memory of Game, though, switch to the left-hand side, looking at the red buff. They're going to catch Wubbn here. Wubbn's in a lot of trouble, looking to dash away. One more hit will do it. Slaps from the sky. Not even needed, because Cynosure will take him out.
Smart play there out of Snoopy to recognize that Cynosure had that one under control. Puts a little bit of damage into MLC Stealth, only hitting 1 out of 3, but I like the idea out of him. Wubbn just in the wrong spot there, and that's a bad time to get picked, because now Gabe has an opportunity to go for this gold fury.
But Stealth is playing Vulcan, and that big old ultimate can come into play. They've got to take it into account. Eonic's going to get hit by it. He won't care, and that wasn't really on the mark where a gold fury would have been anyway, so Stealth was a little bit worried about walking too far forward there, and by doing so, throwing that ultimate out like he did, it gave Memory of the gold fury for free. Meanwhile, though, Noble, cheekily enough, doing the right-hand side and trying to take the podium. They might be able to get this.
I don't know if they've got time, though. They do. It's very close. Eonic's going to be here soon. Hammer over the walls, just not in time. Stealth shows up and secures it for Noble.
And on top of that, Hurriwind was out of mana there. If he had mana, I think it could have been a bit of a different story, and Noble may have played it a little bit safer, but the call was great from Noble to try and keep things as even as possible. The Portal Demon with about a tier 1 tower. Go Fury a little bit more.
And there you also saw that Skeeledon invaded on that right-hand side, stealing away Cynosure's speed buff, so gets a little bit for himself. Yes, falls a little bit behind in terms of overall gold, but a little bit more XP by getting that buff.
Root in the mid lane, Cynosure dashes away, Skeeledon looking to collapse. Great meatball backfire, and I tell you what, if Skeeledon had that 2 up a little bit earlier, that was a dead bat.
That Sunder was huge there coming out of Wubbn on that Terra. That's what really put that burst damage over the top for Cynosure. Knew that he was going to take a bit of damage there, didn't have his ultimate, so not a whole lot he could have done anyways, but either way, I think that definitely surprised him.
And that's the adjustment we're seeing more and more from these teams on the pro level play now. Once the Sunders have been involved, people are starting to get more Aegises now to try and answer that back. If they get hit by the Sunder, instantly Aegis, avoid some of that burst potential, because the team are going to want to commit immediately onto a Sundered target to get the benefit.
Of course, you're taking extra damage from all sources after getting Sundered, so everyone's going to dump into you whatever they have to try and burst you down during that slight time. And Aegis here just works better for a memory of Gabe anyways, because there's not a whole lot of hard CC that you're not going to be able to Aegis during. You can Aegis during Terra's root, right before the Vulcan knock-up, where Beads isn't going to help you that much anyways. I think I'd rather have that Aegis in that scenario anyways, so I like the Aegis for 3 members here, Cynosure, Hurriwind, and Snoopy.
I like the pattern from Eonic trying to wrap around and find these hammers to get Hurriwind some damage on the board for himself on to potentially someone like Skeeledon. But Skeeledon's well aware of it right now and using the mobility of Nemesis rather nicely. These oracles contested, but both of them go the way of Memory of Gabe, and Noble a bit of an awkward awkward position here. Wobbn has no dash available, and the burst is going to be good to bring him down momentarily. Into the sky is Snoopy looking to snipe it out, and he will do so. Cynosure, though, does get picked up by Wowy, but Snoopy gets a double from the sky.
Beautiful shots out of Snoopy, but a better setup out of Eonic guarantees that third shot. Aquarius is here, but a little bit too late to this party. Everyone's already gone home.
It works out well for Aquarius, though, because Kiki was forced to rotate just in case there, and he loses a full wave to the tower. That tier 1 on the right-hand side may fall down. So it's not all doom and gloom, I should say, for Noble after that fight, because the tier 1 on the right is about to die, and he does. 500
gold for Noble across the board. Good point out there. And Aquarius has done a really good job so far this game. He's got a level lead over Kiki, even with Cynosure spending a little bit of time on that right-hand side. Skeeledon, not so much, has been more focused on that mid lane. This Aquarius kid, man, he's got a lot of potential, really impressing me during this Season 4 rookie season for him.
And what is it that's impressing you the most about him in the solo lane?
He's got a wide god pool. He's not just playing one or two things, and he always looks so comfortable in these matchups. I really can't recall a time where he got absolutely crushed in a matchup. You know what I mean? All you really need to do in a lot of times is just hold your own, exactly. And then you just by surviving, because of all the solo farm you're getting, you're going to be able to come in and make a pretty big impact either way. There have been games so far where Aquarius has been the one trying to carry his team, not just trying to survive. Also has very good understanding of what his gold is going into. Look at his build right now. Started with that silver breastplate after the boots, realizing that that is a very gold efficient item anyways before you finish off Breastplate of Valor. So then he goes into the Gladiator Shield and then a little bit more HP with that Winged Blade. Now can go back and finish off that Breastplate of Valor for the extra CDR whenever needed.
Well, Golfier's due up in about a minute's time, and I think that's one of the reasons you see Hurriwind backing right now. He's already got Book of Thoth online, but making sure he's got that second relic to his name as well. Very important for this next Golfury fight, when Noble will be looking to defend it a little bit better than they did last time.
And they've got the opportunity to do it because now their composition is starting to get a little bit stronger. Not only is Skeeledon hitting level 13, getting his second relic, it has that Shifter Shield completed now, but MLC stealth damage is starting to become more and more relevant after finishing off that Book of Thoth. Going to start stacking that up. Needs a little bit of penetration still in that build after the third item, but should be in a good spot.
Snoopy under pressure here, but a big rotation coming up from Memory of Gabe, who are about toward the Golfury. Now Wowy's a little bit overextended himself, has to leap away. Cynosure going to look for the slow if he can find it, and connects. Bad news is the other members of Memory of Gabe just a little bit too late to follow up.
Just there for the poke, like we talked about. That's what Camazotz wants to do anyways, and that poke not particularly potent right now, pretty strong overall, but a lot of that poke revolves around the fact that Cynosure can hit that first ability, get the return echo,
Aquarius
and get that extra damage.
Just come all the way over from the solo lane very early for this Golfury here. I think he could have stuck around for just one more wave to make sure that tier 1 tower on the right doesn't fall for free, but Skeeledon just takes so much free damage, and with Snoopy raining down and Cynosure hovering in the air, it's only a matter of time before Skeeledon dies for the third time.
Sunder misses from Wubbn as well. Cynosure still in danger though, forced into the Aegis. Wowy with a nice ricochet, but not enough damage to find the kill on the Cyno.
So it's a 4v5 now. Memory of Gabe going to sustain back up, at least Cynosure will, with the Bumba's Mask and playing the fact he's playing the Camazotz anyway. Eonic engages, trying to force Wowy and stealth back just a little bit, and they're doing a good job of this now. Memory of Gabe do want to bring in 1 or 2 members more, or at least try and force some ultimates before they fully commit here.
Eonic going to transform, giving his team that AoE coerce. Kiki gets knocked up, Frenzy popped, and now it's Gabe trying to engage.
And they're looking towards Wowy for sure. Wowy's very low, Aegis is down, Cynosure still giving chase. Aquarius will pick up a Hurriwind on the backside though, which is an important play here for Noble to stay in this one. Wubbn against Cynosure is going to be a dead fight eventually unless Wubbn can get back to the tower. Cynosure will instead reset to the red buff. Only Aquarius still hanging around here. Golfury still above half health.
And Aquarius still has his ultimate available, just used 72 transformations and is now in a lot of trouble. Gets that ultimate off just before the knockup, and now Skilly's here.
Hits the Sunder as well, but Kiki's still alive for the time being. Golfury's still alive. Aquarius still too low to contest, and now it's Skeeledon versus the world. Oh, I should say Memory of Gabe, and Memory of Gabe will just take the gold, walk away, and live to fight another day.
Very close fight there, though, and Aquarius, as you mentioned, that was a huge pickup for him on that backside. Hurriwind got no peel on the back, and Aquarius, as soon as that engagement from Noble happened, immediately just goes right past everybody and jumps on top of Hurriwind, preventing him from getting good follow-up as Noble was really funneled into a tight little corridor there, which is exactly where Thoth wants you to be up against Final Judgment. But still, how do you peel Camazotz ult, how do you peel a Rama ult? Yeah, exactly. There's nothing you can really do. Skeeledon got shut down there from something that he can't really stop without an Aegis, and he already doesn't have one.
It's times like that I kind of look at Meditation and Shell, right? Because Meditation is one of the things that can deal with a Camazotz ult and a Snoopy ult, just because you give them the extra health that they're not expecting them to have and potentially turn the fight around, waste those ultimates. Or Shell, just to reduce the amount of damage coming out here. Obviously, they're a bit trickier to get into builds these days.
I don't disagree with you. I think Meditation, while taking a pretty big nerf in terms of what supports wanted to do with it, I think it's still really solid out of solo. And yes, Sunder is very strong right now, and everyone wants to build the Sunder. But at some point, I think that you look at Nobles right now. You got 3 Sunders and a Nemesis ult.
Yep.
Do you really need all that prot shred? I think a Meditation out of Aquarius could have been really helpful for this team.
And I think everyone agrees, Sunder is still too strong, and there's been announcements there's going to be some more nerfs coming to it, obviously, at the moment. But I don't think it's this need for 3 and a Nemesis, like you said. I think the teams are just going a little bit too far with it. Meditation would help them out a little bit more, Shells a little bit more, even Frenzies would help out the team a lot. And talking about Frenzy, there's one popped, and the Monkey! There's no madness from that one, he's already dead.
Kiki's going to find him now. Skeeledon still on that backside, does find Hurriwind, and Cyno's getting very low. Wowy's going to clean him up as well.
Kiki in trouble here too, surrounded by 3 members of Noble. Will get away thanks to Eonic's nice ultimate. Snoopy in the sky will distract them for a moment. Obviously, he went up there looking to try and pick a low health member. The bad news is nobody on Noble was really that low. Great play from Noble. Now they got pressure in mid.
Skeeledon was a little bit low, but had the shield, and you can't punch through that with any CC with that Rama ult. So this tier 1 tower is going to fall here. Great fight from Noble. While Aquarius went probably a little bit too aggressive there, it ends up working out for Noble because of how much was committed to that solo laner. He's level 17, that was his first death, and took quite a bit to knock him down. Skeeledon did a great job of trusting that Aquarius was making the right call and getting into the thick of things immediately.
Noble are doing a lot better than I expected today. I know the Des was saying it's going to be a little bit closer here, but I expected Noble would still have a lot of teething issues without, having Aquarius on and Skeeledon joining. Wobbn, Wowy, MSC stuff get the flow of the game. But when you have members in the jungle change and the solo change, your dynamic as a team changes. What kind of gods do they play? What's the play style now? Are we looking at Stealth being the hard carry that we've seen before? Or is it more Skeeledon calling the shots and trying to get the farm up himself to potentially carry from the jungle? All these questions are what teams have to work out while still trying to play in the Pro League.
Very difficult to answer those questions exactly, especially whenever you're putting someone like Skeeledon into a shot calling role, and then you have to get used to what Skeeledon wants to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very difficult to find your synergy pretty early on, and this Noble roster certainly has a ton of potential. I don't think anyone could really doubt that.
I agree.
It's just about how quickly they can realize it.
Precisely. It's about the pacing of how quickly they get to that point. And in a short split like summer is with only 5 weeks of play, you might not be expecting them to make Valencia, but you're just hoping them to grow, and this is 2nd week. They're growing.
Get ready for fall. Exactly. Summer split, going to Valencia is nice and all, but at the end of the day, I mean, most of these teams
about
are
Worlds.
Working for Worlds. Exactly. So fall split's the one that you really have to be prepared for, and Noble can definitely use this summer split, as can a lot of teams. I'm looking at, the Poppies and Burrito in Europe, Noble and Flashpoint in North America, those bottom end teams that even elevate where they look like they might have regressed a little bit during the summer. You can use this split to kind of get back into the swing of things and get ready to go and gear it up for fall.
Look at Rival. There's a prime example of a team that did this in the fall split, I guess, with Super Regionals and the likes, trying to put on a show. Stepped up in the season during spring a little bit more, then the LAN came through, stepped up again, and now this season they're in contention, they're near the top now, they're starting to rise, and teams like this in the summer split will be looking for the same thing. Memory of Gabe, though, a little bit more established. They've been around, they're stuck as a team, still struggling here and there, though. Had roster change as
Inconsistency, I think, is the big key there for In Memory of Gabe, and trying to get a little bit more consistent, I suppose, with picking up Kiki instead of Walrus. We saw Walrus today play for Flashpoint, subbing in for Dante LaFargo. Didn't have a lot of success there, but as they mentioned on the desk, a lot of that was a conceded effort from Eager to make sure that Walrus didn't have a solid set. But either way, I mean, Gabe just seems like they can beat anyone at any given time, and then also could drop a game to anyone at any given time. And I think that you have to work on that. And a lot of that consistency issue usually comes down to shot calling and your draft, making sure that you can do whatever you can.
This is a really cheeky play from Snoopy. He's hiding, and Wowy doesn't know what's going on. Although Hurriwind has showed up in Cynosure too. Snoopy's able to tank this away from everybody seeing it by hiding in the Gold Fury pit with the Devourer's Gauntlets, can sustain all the way up. And even though Hurriwind showed up there, no one was 100% certain they were doing it because the Gold Fury hadn't moved. It wasn't out of position.
I think that Hurriwind, if he wouldn't have shown up, actually would have. I don't think Wowy would have noticed.
I agree.
I think that could have been Snoopy it was Hurriwind actually who kind of gave away the game, but didn't end up mattering because Hurriwind's got the damage to secure it in the end of the day. So good zone coming out of Cynosure as well, secures the 3rd Gold Fury of the game for In Memory of Gabe, and this gold lead is basically entirely from Gold Furies. If Noble was able to stop one of these Gold Fury selections, I mean, they could have been in the lead in this game.
So look at the mid lane builds right now as well as we approach 24 minutes. The one thing I'm interested in is whatever happened to the Helm builds out of Mages at the start of the game? Why do they not go for defense anymore?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think
where
the
did that
Dynasty Play
disappear
Helm
go to?
Yeah, Dynasty Play Helm's still so strong, and you'll see it every once in a while. But especially against gods like Camazotz, I think that it could have really helped MLC Stealth in this matchup. Now against the Nemesis, I can understand because you're going to lose your protections anyways, so it's not that big of a deal if you just go for full damage. But MLC Stealth was notorious, even whenever Dynasty Plate Helm and Celestial Legion Helm were insane, he was still trying to go for these stacking builds. He just likes to do damage. Stealth likes to see big numbers pop up whenever he uses his abilities.
But I think most mages this split, from what I've seen, the only time I think I've seen the Legion Helm getting picked up was on an Isis, who is the squishiest, more than likely, the less escapable. Portal Demon started up though by Noble, down to half health already. Eonic and Kiki on the scene first of all. Cynosure following in, and Hurriwind channeling that ultimate, looking to steal it away. Did he get it? No, Noble will secure the Portal Demon for now, but the fight still goes on.
Eonic in the middle of everybody. Kiki gonna eat that ultimate and immediately force into the Sentinel of Zeus, knocked up and a ton of damage onto Kiki, but Snoopy is trying to help him out.
And Snoopy helping him out by sniping away onto stealth and trying to force back Wowy as well with the help of Cynosure. It does keep him alive for a moment, but not long enough.
Kiki just bought a full Winged Blade, and boy does he need it. Not only for the slow immunity against the Nemesis, but just in terms of HP, there really isn't any in that build.
Did he just go back and buy 2 items? Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong person. I was looking at Aquarius. I'm like, wait a second. Did he just buy Winged Blade? I'm not. No. He got that Winged Blade. Kiki did right after dying, and you just need HP against Nemesis. I've seen so many builds right now in solo are protection based, where it's a lot of these Hide of the Urchins, even Shifter Shields, things like that. Whereas a lot of protection, yes, but against Nemesis, protections help, and the more you get, then the more you'll have after she strips them away. But HP can really help you in those scenarios as well. I like this pickup from Kiki. Probably needs even more HP in that 6th item slot. Well, I think experience is still relatively even, but Noble feeling confident in their play so far. They're going to start the Fire Giant up and keep them busy here. Cynosure goes aggressive, forced to Aegis early on, but now the full commit on Cynosure is available. The Vulcan ultimate from Stealth didn't do much work. Hurriwind did a little bit to Skeeledon, but not enough for the kill. The Sun's rained down from Wowy just to zone away Memory of Gabe a little bit more, and it's Memory of Gabe who are on the defeat so far, just in terms of health.
Man, did Aquarius do work there. Handled 4 members of In Memory of Gabe as Noble was trying to retreat. Stealth's ultimate was this close to changing the dynamic of this game very, very quickly. Did some good damage onto Snoopy, but didn't find the execute basically onto Cynosure. And Cyno, after getting off to a great start, just has not been impactful on this Camazotz really since the mid-game.
That team fight there where nobody died just kind of shows you how close this game could really be between the two of them. The only difference is Snoopy and Eonic, I'm pretty sure their ultimates were available, but they weren't invested in that engagement.
And yeah, Snoopy didn't get a chance to snipe anyone down. Eonic really needs to be using that ultimate pretty early on in these engagements to get the most out of it, but I think the call pretty early on from there was to disengage, and so Eonic wanted to hold on to it to use the escape to get out of any potential big damage burst coming out of Noble as well.
So having those 3 ultimates still available for Memory of Gabe now, is it a power play moment knowing there's a couple down on Noble?
I mean, look how close they are to coming back up though. Stealth's got a good amount of CDR between the Sands of Time and the Spear of Desolation. Aquarius has a lot of CDR between that Gladiator shield, as well as Shogun's Kisari giving you a little bit of CDR, I believe. So Aquarius already has his ultimate up. Stealth has his up now. It's all even.
Aquarius takes a tier 1 side on the left, but I'm realizing that Kiki's going to get a little bit aggressive on this right-hand side. Wubbn will pop his ultimate in defense for Noble, and it allows Aquarius to just continue doing what he's doing. The bad news is as well, nobody has teleport on Memory of Gabe. This should be a free tower for Noble on the left here, as long as they can defend the Fire Giant at the same time.
Now Eonic realizes that Gabe needs to be doing something, as Aquarius is going to get this tier 2 tower. So Fire Giant gets started up by a Memory of Gabe, falls to around 2/3 HP, and here comes Noble.
Aquarius has teleport as well, so he could still get to this fight. The Vulcan ultimate from downtown doesn't hit the Fire Giant, but the Fire Giant was reset anyway, and the collapse on Stealth is big. Stealth was off on the left-hand side on his own, looking for a highlight reel play. Instead, he gives one to Memory of Gabe.
Kiki finds a knock-up onto Wowy. He's trying to get away from Cynosure, but good luck getting away from that bat out of hell. Hurriwind can't quite find him until the final judgment comes through, finding Wowy.
And now Cynosure pinned under the tower, but okay up against Wubbn until Skeeledon turns up as well. Shielded by a moment, Snoopy from the sky looking to snipe out and put some pressure onto Noble to get Cynosure out of the danger zone. Aquarius was waiting though in the back wings with the monkey, and the Jingu Bang will bring down the bat.
Eonic finds the stun onto Aquarius. Hurriwind gonna follow it up with a stun of his own. Snoopy's gonna find his 4th kill, rolling forward very low. Skeeledon trying to handle him, but he's gonna have to dash away himself.
Skeeledon really in trouble, and that knockup from Kiki's enough for Hurriwind to pick up the kill. Silent but deadly in the mid lane. Tier 2 tower falls on the right hand side, which evens up the Tier 2 loss on the left.
And going back to the just initial engagement, I completely agree with you. Stealth just completely out of position there. Tries to make this crazy play when Noble just all really needs is Wubbn to step forward and stop that pull.
I get the idea of like, yeah, let's just go for the steal with the sniper, the Vulcan ult, but if you do it from there and you're not got your team around you, they're going to try and collapse. Whether it'll stealth out of position or whether it's the team being on different pages, this is the thing with Noble that we were talking about just earlier, is that the communication, the decision making is just a little bit skew-whiff because they're still learning as a team.
Whether the call was to just try and steal it away or it was out of position, I mean, it doesn't really matter, because if the call is to steal it away, then I just disagree with that outright, because you've got 4 members there with Aquarius with teleport, Wubbn's full HP.
Yep.
Just walk at them. Just walk at In Memory of Gabe. Force them into the fight. When you've got a situation like that where your solo laner is pushing and has teleport and can get back into the fight pretty quickly, you want the enemy team to engage onto you so that Aquarius can teleport into the backside and make it difficult on the back line. That's the ideal situation, is that you commit onto a character like Wubbn. But Wubbn was not really too keen on going in that scenario. I just think that Noble could have played that whole engagement a little bit better.
Look at those graphs and you can see that down tilt, and that was the Fire Giant fight into a Fire Giant into a Gold Fury. That's where the graphs have now gone downhill for Noble, but beneficial for Memory of Gabe now. With the Fire Giant, they're going to get the Gold Fury as we saw, the Tier 1 tower on the left, and they can start to look at a Tier 2, but Noble should be pretty good for a defense here.
They've got plenty to defend with. I mean, Stealth now is sitting at level 20, I believe. No, almost level 20.
Though.
Level 19, yeah, look at that backfire. 600 damage immediately on the Snoopy. He's got the Rod of Tahuti done now as well.
I've just not seen a Vulcan ultimate that's really made an impact in the fight, and granted, Vulcan ultimate is one of the hardest ones on a mid lane mage to really connect and deal damage with, but at least for zoning work, you could get something off there if you can get it in the right spot.
The Vulcan ultimate definitely very difficult because of how slow the travel time is and how telegraphed it can be. Hurriwind basically the opposite with that very quick ultimate.
Wubbn did not enjoy that one little bit. Dashed in, dashed out, went back to base. Cynosure continuing the chase with the bat though. Wowy and Aquarius really the lowest targets. Aquarius will take to the cloud though to buy him a minute, and Snoopy was just sniping them down. Wowy's one more hit, and I don't think Kiki will give up the goose just yet.
No, Eonic's gonna be the one to find it though underneath that middle Phoenix. Left side Tier 2 already gone. Now the Phoenix is the call as everyone gets buffed by that Coerce.
Yeah, and that won't take it very long. The Vulcan ultimate from Stealth will hit, but it's not enough damage to bring down Memory of Gabe enough, although Kiki's very low after that leap now. Skeeledon and Aquarius did some work, but Stealth was round on the left and he gets picked off.
Snoopy's the one that did the majority of damage to Stealth. Hurriwind got credit for the kill though. Good bait by Kiki to just bait Stealth a little bit farther up to make sure that he was going to be in danger.
And you saw Kiki just teleport back in like, hey guys, I'm back to full health. I've still got Fire Giant buff. You need a tank? I can tank a Tier 2 if you want me to, but the call seems to be head to the right-hand side instead because we don't need the Tier 2 when we could get a Phoenix.
And there's not a lot of damage on the board right now for Noble. Plenty for Gabe though, as Skeeledon forced out from quite a distance away.
Hurriwind just slowly climbing the damage charts to #1 now on the Thoth. You kind of expect that with the Thoth as well as the game goes on. Once he gets a passive and the penetration stacks online and the build comes online with Rod of Tahuti, you're going to be swinging.
Plenty of pen in that build for Hurriwind between the passive, as you mentioned, the Spear of Desolation, and then of course the percent pen out of that Obsidian Shard. Gabe decided not to go for this Tier 2 tower, and I've got no problem with this call. They've got an opportunity here to just get this Portal Demon, spend all this gold that they've just earned, and then go right for that Tier 2. Could probably get there before this Fire Giant wears off in 35 seconds.
I actually think go for Tier 2, go to Fire Giant, look for the middle Phoenix would be the call I'd be looking for here. It's the right sort of play to make, because I don't think Noble will try and defend the Tier 2 too much with 5 minions left and right, and the Fire Giant about to spawn.
Noble has a lot to work with in terms of what they can learn from watching back this game.
For sure.
Just look at the top left. The real difference in this game, Gold Fury and Fire Giant. 5 objectives go Gabe's way, and it's very difficult to win a game where you give up 4 Gold Furies and a Fire Giant.
And some of them were snuck.
Yeah.
Some of them were also in plain sight of multiple members of Noble that weren't contested correctly.
But either way, I mean, you got to look at Gold Furies that are snuck away and say, we got to be there.
Gotta fix that. Yeah.
There's plenty to work with.
And it's also look at the objectives that were done in plain sight of you. Like, okay, what did we do wrong? How could we reposition this for the future to continue to improve?
Exactly. But Noble's team fight was pretty solid in this one, and Aquarius had a really solid game on the Sun Wukong. Loved that pick onto him. Skeeledon fell behind early, but did a good job of bouncing back. Has been pretty relevant in this game. Stealth obviously doing his job in terms of player damage on top for his team. So plenty to work with here for Noble. You just got to work on that objective control. That seems to be the big glaring weakness for me right now.
Well, at 33 minutes in the game, you can see most of Memory of Gabe's builds are completed now, which means they're all upgrading their relics to go with it. Only a couple of upgrades we normally notice, but plenty of Sunders upgraded so far.
And that's what you expect in the later stages, as well as the Frenzy upgrade for In Memory of Gabe, whereas Noble's still sitting on that regular Frenzy. That Frenzy upgrade giving you more damage and, of course, just outright penetration for your entire team, which is incredibly strong stat to give to your whole squad.
I think we'll see more frenzies coming out if Sunder does take more hits to its actual potential here. 5 Giants respawned. Memory of Gabe going to start it up. Eonic on zone duty on the front line. He is Fafnir, so he can sustain back up with the Coerce and also zone away. 5 Giants down as Noble will look to commit, but they were too late.
Frenzy popped on each side. Hurriwind looking for the final judgment. Gonna not fire it off quite yet, but wow, he's gonna find Cynosure.
And Aquarius was keeping them busy at the back. The Vulcan almost gonna trap Eonic, but Eonic's the tankiest target on this team. Now he's got the Dragon Bomb to avoid the extra follow-up damage. Skeeledon still going on Snoopy, who ages to buy himself time. And it's Aquarius the one that's gonna fall for that as he went just too deep. Kiki meanwhile still after Wowy, giving sight for Snoopy. And sight for Snoopy is all he needs to connect all 3.
Wubbn's gonna fall to Kiki as well. Gabe looks like they're gonna find this one as Hurriwind snipes down Stealth.
Clean fight for Memory of Gabe after the 5 Giant. Noble just a little bit too late on that one as well. Aggro and it kind of shown. You saw the Frenzy pop and the Wubbn ult, but it was too late.
It was right as the Fire Giant had fallen down, and Noble saying, all right, let's get it. They did it. We're in trouble now.
So clearly, game 1, you can look back and go, the biggest issues Noble had wasn't the team fights.
No.
It wasn't the farming section. They did a very good job of staying even, if not ahead at certain points in terms of farming.
Yep.
Objective control.
That's all you got to do, and that's one of the toughest things to do in competitive Smite, though, because teams just work so hard on it, because Gold Furies are worth so much to your team. That's the easiest way to get ahead, basically, and that's exactly what we saw on that one, is that Gabe just has better objective control, and they win the game because of it.
I'm realistic.